One joke, one miscalculation. We are counting down the 7 most horrifying prank deaths, from innocent victims caught off guard to pranksters blinded by their thirst for views. These are not just accidents during jokes gone wrong. They are proof that entertainment can blind us to lethal risks, in which the pursuit of laughter ignored basic safety and the cost was irreversible. Let us begin with the most innocent casualty, number 7. On September 12, 2018, Emily Carter, a 19-year-old college sophomore in Columbus, Ohio, returned to her dorm after a late study session. Her roommates, eager to outdo each other for a viral video, had spent days transforming the hallway into a makeshift haunted house with hidden speakers, strobe lights, and costumed actors positioned behind multiple doors. Hours earlier, Emily had sent a group chat message saying she hated scary pranks and wanted no part of them. Her warning was ignored. Consent had been withheld, yet the setup proceeded. But as she stepped inside, at 11:07 p.m., a masked figure lunged from the shadows. The sudden shock produced a rapid surge of adrenaline that overwhelmed Emily's heart, and she collapsed instantly. Security footage later confirmed the pranksters hesitated, laughing and filming, and they mistook her silence for acting. 4 minutes passed before anyone called for help. Paramedics arrived at 11:12 p.m. and resuscitation efforts failed. Emily was pronounced dead at 12:03 a.m. The cause was cardiac arrest, later linked to an undiagnosed heart condition. Police recovered chat logs and prank planning notes, leading to involuntary manslaughter charges for those involved. The university imposed an immediate ban on theatrical effects in dorms and expanded hazing policies. Emily's death set a precedent. Consent and safety are not optional, even for a joke. On June 21, 2019, Lucas Ramirez attended his cousin's birthday in suburban Bakersfield. The backyard was crowded with relatives, laughter, and the hum of phone cameras ready to capture every moment. As dusk settled, 4 adults whispered in the kitchen, rehearsing a prank, a staged kidnapping meant to shock Lucas's aunt for a family video. They never considered how an 8-year-old would interpret the scene. At 7:19 p.m., a masked figure grabbed Lucas's mother, pulling her toward a waiting van. Lucas, standing just yards away, panicked and bolted across the front lawn. A passing sedan, traveling at 28 miles per hour, struck him at the edge of the driveway. The dashcam footage later reconstructed the impact, showing Lucas airborne for nearly 10 feet. Emergency crews arrived within minutes. Lucas was pronounced dead at 7:33 p.m. The driver, exonerated by police, had no chance to stop. Investigators found no evidence of malice, only a tragic miscalculation. The Ramirez family filed a wrongful death lawsuit, resulting in a settlement of $2.5 million. State lawmakers responded by passing Assembly Bill 2943, criminalizing staged violence in pranks involving minors. Viral video platforms soon followed, removing content that exploited children for entertainment. Lucas's death forced a reckoning. The gap between adult intentions and a child's understanding can be fatal. On March 3, 2020, Jordan Miller arrived at a rented warehouse in San Diego, ready to film a stunt for his Comedy Channel's biggest sketch yet. At 22, Jordan was known among friends for his slapstick routines and technical know-how, and he had studied theater tech in college. He volunteered to help design the group's homemade human catapult, contributing sketches and calculations that fostered a sense of confidence among the team. The plan was simple on paper. Launch Jordan 15 feet through the air onto a pile of foam pads, all for a viral slow-motion shot. Hours of trial runs and adjustments reinforced that sense of confidence. Jordan signed a waiver, and he even joked on camera about the risks. But the catapult's main latch, a welded steel bracket, had never been tested at full tension. The post-incident engineering report found the device's counterweight set at nearly double the intended force. At 3:17 p.m., as cameras rolled, the latch sheared off with a screech, releasing the arm with 2.4 times the planned energy. Jordan was launched 40 feet, almost triple the target distance, and he landed headfirst beyond the foam, striking the concrete. Forensic analysis measured the deceleration at impact at approximately 75 G, a force well beyond survivable limits for cranial and thoracic trauma. Death was instantaneous. Investigators reviewed build logs and waiver language, and they concluded the team had overlooked basic engineering standards. The insurance company denied the claim, citing gross negligence. In the months that followed, YouTube removed the entire dangerous prank category and expanded platform liability for hazardous content. New guidelines now require professional engineering review for any high-risk stunts. Jordan Miller's story stands as a warning. Enthusiastic consent and bravado cannot replace expertise when physics and safety are ignored. On August 14, 2020, Maria Singh stood atop a scaffold in a converted warehouse outside Houston, surrounded by friends and camera equipment. At 26, she was a regular on her friend's prank channel, known for her steady nerves and willingness to try almost anything. The day's plan called for an ultimate trust test, a fall from 35 feet into a safety net, all on camera. Earlier takes from 10 feet and 20 feet had gone smoothly, each one building confidence among the crew. Rehearsal logs later showed that the anchors used for the net were rated at just 40% of the force required for a dynamic drop from that height. But no one recalculated after raising the platform. At 5:23 p.m., Maria called down that she was ready. Her last words, captured on the ambient audio track, were the reassurance, "I trust you." The countdown echoed through the warehouse. As she stepped off, the impact of her body stretched the net past its limits. 2 of the 4 anchor points tore free from the concrete, swinging the net sideways and dumping Maria onto the exposed floor below. The fall lasted less than 2 seconds. The impact caused catastrophic blunt force trauma. Emergency services arrived at 5:38 p.m., but the injuries were unsurvivable. Death was pronounced on scene. Forensic engineers reviewing the accident found that the anchors, purchased from a hardware store, were never intended for dynamic loads or repeated shocks. The group's rehearsal logs documented at least 6 prior drops, each one stressing the hardware further. Text messages and planning notes revealed that the decision to attempt the full 35-foot fall was made only hours before without consulting a professional. In court, the channel's creator was convicted of manslaughter for gross negligence. The verdict cited the failure to obtain a licensed stunt coordinator or adequate insurance. In response, Texas enacted new licensing requirements for anyone planning high-risk stunts for filmed entertainment. Insurers began to demand proof of professional oversight before covering similar productions. Maria's death forced creators and platforms to confront the line between friendship, trust, and legal responsibility. On October 9, 2021, Tyler Rhodes arrived in Northside, a district known for its high crime rate and boarded-up storefronts. With 500,000 followers across 3 platforms, Tyler was no stranger to risky content. He had built his reputation on bold, unscripted pranks, each one pushing the boundary between shock and spectacle. That evening, Tyler and his filming partner debated the plan one last time. The script called for Tyler to stage a fake armed robbery, complete with a realistic black mask and a replica handgun, then capture bystander reactions for a new video titled, "How Would You React?" His partner urged caution, citing recent local shootings and warning the area was unpredictable. Tyler dismissed the concerns, insisting that realism was the key to viral success. At 8:24 p.m., Tyler stepped onto the sidewalk, camera rolling from a hidden angle. He approached a small group outside a convenience store, brandishing the prop gun and shouting demands. Within seconds, a bystander standing 66 feet away drew a legally carried firearm and fired once. But as the bullet struck Tyler in the chest, it passed through the sternum and lacerated the right lung. Surveillance and bystander footage captured the chaos. Screams, dropped phones, and Tyler collapsing on the pavement. Emergency services arrived in under 7 minutes, but the wound had already caused massive internal bleeding. Tyler was pronounced dead at 9:05 p.m. after resuscitation efforts failed at the trauma center. Police recovered the prop gun, confirming it was indistinguishable from a real firearm at a glance. Witnesses described the scene as indistinguishable from an actual robbery. The shooter, a local resident with a concealed carry permit, was not charged. The district attorney's report cited the state's stand your ground law and the immediate threat posed by Tyler's actions. Investigators later uncovered text messages in which Tyler's partner had expressed fear that someone might get hurt, warnings that went unheeded. Within weeks, YouTube, TikTok, and several other platforms announced a ban on crime simulation pranks, citing public safety. States, including Texas and Florida, passed new laws criminalizing the performance and posting of fake crime content. Tyler's death became a case study in police training and legislative hearings, used to illustrate the predictable dangers of simulating violence in public spaces. The consequences extended beyond the tragedy itself, forcing creators and lawmakers alike to confront the lethal risks of chasing viral fame at any cost. On January 12, 2022, Aaron Blake entered his garage in the early morning hours carrying a set of socket wrenches and a GoPro mounted to a tripod. At 28, Aaron had developed a reputation for elaborate retaliation pranks, most of them targeting his ex-girlfriend despite a court-issued restraining order. Over the previous year, police records documented a steady escalation of harassment, including slashed tires, hidden cameras, and threatening posts on private social media accounts. That night, Aaron's plan relied on the element of surprise. He intended to film himself disabling the front brakes on his ex-partner's sedan, and then capture her panic when she discovered the failure. For added drama, he set up his phone to live stream the process to a closed group. At 2:18 in the morning, Aaron jacked up the front end of the car using a single 1,500-pound rated stand, ignoring industry guidelines that require at least 2 points of support and a wheel chock. Toolmark analysis later confirmed that he removed both calipers and loosened the mounting bolts, leaving the brake discs unsecured. But as he slid beneath the chassis to record the final steps, the jack stand shifted under the uneven weight of the 3,200-pound vehicle. At precisely 2:40 in the morning, the car collapsed without warning, pinning Aaron's chest and neck against the cold concrete. The live stream continued for several minutes, capturing only the muffled sound of metal settling and the whir of the GoPro fan. Aaron's body was not discovered until 7:10 in the morning when a neighbor noticed the garage door still open. Paramedics pronounced him dead at the scene. The coroner's report listed cause of death as compressive asphyxia and blunt force trauma. Police investigators recovered digital logs showing Aaron's step-by-step sabotage, as well as prior messages detailing his intent to teach her a lesson. Court records revealed a pattern of harassment, with the restraining order filed just 3 weeks before the incident. In the aftermath, state lawmakers passed new statutes upgrading vehicular tampering for prank or content creation purposes from a misdemeanor to a felony, citing the foreseeability of harm. Platforms responded by requiring mandatory disclaimers and age restrictions on all prank content involving mechanical modification or sabotage, and repeat offenders faced permanent bans. The legal community noted that the phrase "prank gone wrong" was no longer a viable defense for criminal or civil liability. Aaron's death, alone and caused by his own actions, underscored how the pursuit of revenge through pranks can result in irreversible consequences for intended victims and for the pranksters themselves. On November 5, 2022, Daniel Price arrived at a quiet residential street in Akron, Ohio. By 11:15 p.m., he was crouched behind a fence, headlamp switched off, phone recording in his pocket, and a balaclava pulled tight over his face. Price was 35, and he had spent the past decade cultivating notoriety as a provocateur on social media, known for staging confrontational pranks that blurred the line between performance and harassment. His channels were banned from every major platform, yet he continued to create new accounts, taunting moderators and critics with each return. 7 formal complaints had been filed against him by neighbors and former targets, all documented in local police records. None led to prosecution, but each described escalating tactics: break-ins staged as social experiments, racial slurs hurled for shock value, and threats of violence disguised as content. On this night, Price planned to film a staged hate crime, an armed break-in targeting a decorated Army veteran with a diagnosed PTSD. The recovered script from his encrypted group chat called for a forced entry through the back door, a barrage of slurs, and a confrontation meant to provoke a terrified response. At 11:26 p.m., Price forced the lock with a crowbar, tripping a silent alarm. The homeowner, awakened by the noise, retrieved a legally owned handgun from his nightstand. Security camera footage captured the confrontation in grainy black and white. Price was shouting. The homeowner fired 2 shots in rapid succession. The first bullet struck Price in the abdomen, the second in the chest. Both wounds caused catastrophic internal bleeding. Price collapsed within seconds, his phone still recording. Emergency services arrived at 11:33 p.m., and he was pronounced dead at the scene. Investigators quickly pieced together the sequence using digital logs, chat records, and security footage. Police found Price's phone still streaming to a private server. Analysis of his online activity revealed a pattern of ban evasion, with over a dozen new accounts registered within weeks of each platform ban, each time escalating the extremity of his content. Court filings documented 7 previous police complaints, including one from the same homeowner who had reported Price for trespassing 3 months prior. The district attorney's report cited the homeowner's military record and the diagnosed PTSD, noting that Price's actions were designed to incite a violent confrontation. The shooting was ruled justified under Ohio's revised Stand Your Ground law. The court opinion stated that Price's intent to provoke and the foreseeable risk of deadly force removed any protection under the First Amendment or a prank defense. The court granted the homeowner a reduced sentence for weapons discharge, citing the cumulative evidence of intent and the psychological impact of repeated harassment. The aftermath extended far beyond the immediate tragedy. Legal scholars cited the case in briefs arguing for expansion of the fighting words doctrine, clarifying that staged provocations designed to elicit violence are not protected by the First Amendment. Social media platforms responded with a wave of policy changes, formalizing anti-evasion rules that permanently barred users engaged in dangerous or criminal prank content from creating new accounts. Advocacy groups called for stricter enforcement and automated detection of repeat offenders, and the incident prompted national debate about the limits of online expression and the responsibilities of creators and platforms. Price's death closed the list of fatal prank cases with the highest measure of intent, foreseeability, and systemic consequence. It underscored that calculated provocation, when paired with disregard for warnings and legal boundaries, can end not just in tragedy for the target, but in irreversible consequences for the instigator. The ripple effects, doctrinal, legislative, and platform-wide, redrew the boundaries of what can and cannot be justified as entertainment. Across all 7 cases, one pattern stands out. When entertainment overrides empathy and risk assessment, pranks become deadly instruments, no matter the intent. Each tragedy proves that laughter can cloud judgment, turning moments meant for joy into irreversible loss. Today, viral culture still rewards escalation over caution, The true cost is not shock value, it is lives forever changed by a joke that went too far.